All right, so hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Silly Point podcast. So today we have a really special episode with a really special guest. So we have with us Karthika Purushothaman. Karthika is a graduate of NITK all the way back in 2013, and since then she's gone to do some incredible things, including a master's at Carnegie Mellon. After which she worked at Oracle and then navigated the tech world all the way into the early founding team of Doordash, about which we'll definitely be talking about. Because Doordash had one of the coolest IPOs in the last decade. So interesting stories there. Then she moved on into the venture capital world with Goodwater VC and followed by starting off with an MBA at Wharton. Now currently with Blink Capital. A really, really cool career trajectory over here. Super excited to get into it. So Karthika, thank you so much for making time to join our podcast in spite of like your incredibly busy schedules. So how's it going? How's Wharton? How's life?
Thanks for inviting me. And this is really cool what y'all are doing. Life is good right now. Like Wharton obviously opens up doors to things that you've never thought of. Like you might have NFL players as your classmates, or yeah, that's true. I do have an ex-NFL player as my classmate. Um, you'll find people
Is
who
it Tom Brady?
no, it's not Tom Brady.
I
It's
think
not
NFL had a draft recently, if I'm not wrong. So I was reading about it on Twitter quite a bit. But yeah, I think Tom Brady is financially
yeah.
settled enough to not bother with
I think
MBAs.
all of them are like financially settled. In fact, like Brandon Brooks was also Wharton. He was in Philadelphia Eagles, and he's actually doing investment banking in Goldman Sachs right now. So yeah. So
Wow,
it's
I think yeah, it's like the highest calling of man, investment banking and or man or woman, like investment banking and Goldman Sachs. Like it's all
yeah.
NFL and all is fine, but yeah. But
So
let's
you
start off.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. You get to meet people. Your network just increases rapidly when you come to a business school like this. Yeah.
Right, so we'll definitely talk about that a lot. But before we go there, so let's come back to like the beginning of all things. All the way back, like let's say when you came to NITK, right? So what was your selling point to NITK? Because you take all these competitive exams and you have so many different options. So what was the USP of selling point, of NITK to you?
I think for me, I think at that point in time, I wanted something which is close to home, but not that far away. Obviously, like in India, you have the IITs, BITS, and NIT. So you wanted something in the top 10. And my dad also went to NITK. So that was another selling point. Yeah. So then,
Crazy, crazy.
so those were the main things why I wanted.
Nice. So. What was your journey like at NITK? So what clubs were you part of and what role did it play in kind of developing your character by the time you graduated and came to your final year?
So I think as part of, I don't remember there was one which was, so I was part of amongst the tech clubs, I was in IST. Then there was a club where you wrote I don't know, they publish newsletters or something, or, oh,
Yes, yes.
I'm
What's it
forgetting.
called? What's it called?
No,
They
not
have type
newsletters. I think there was a club which focused a lot on quizzes. Or it was there.
LSD,
LSD.
LSD, LSD.
LSD.
Yeah. That
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LSD is like still evergreen, There's always that segment of people who are interested in because I never thought like quizzing is like a thing. Like I knew debating is a thing, but quizzing as a thing is something I discovered after coming to an ITK. But yeah, it's a very interesting. Uh,
LSD is one club that I regretted not joining because I never knew about it. So I joined in first year and then in our first year COVID stuck. So I was there for 6 months we were there, I think. And then I never heard of LSD. And then
Okay.
some things happened and then we come back to college in second, third year and then I hear about LSD in college and then I come back in third year and then fourth year. all the cool kids are in LSD. So I'm like, man, I missed out LSD. So
Right. And we just talked about it a while back, like developing public speaking skills and all these things. So I think in that sense, NITK has like all the like the entire spectrum of important skills covered, but you need to kind of navigate your way into it. And you said, right, you got it all covered. So you got the tech skills and then you got also the soft skills. So yeah, you're already destined for greatness. So Naveen and I,
That's really
now
nice.
Naveen and I, by this point, we already made two mistakes. So, but
No, no,
you
I
made the
don't
two.
think so. I mean, I was pretty much, I still am an introvert. I was an introvert then also, and I still am an introvert. But it's not about that. Like, you don't need to like be the most extroverted person to like figure things out. You just, there are like when you talk, you need to talk with good content, less filler words, be a salesperson. Um, so that kind of learning you get only when you like experience. It comes with experience also. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Experiences you have, the more quality things you can talk about.
Yeah. The
Makes
kind of
sense.
people you interact with, you learn more. Yeah.
Makes sense. Did you have any interest like in startups and all this back in college?
Honestly, no. I never thought I would. My focus at NITK was uh, get a job, and stay in that job for a long time, and then retire. That's pretty much what. Or maybe like switch 2 or 3 times. Like that was a plan going into NITK. But
Nice.
yeah, when I came to the US and I met people from Doordash, especially like the kind of people who are like building Doordash, I think like that's how it changed
I
the
see.
view of.
Okay.
so uh sorry to interrupt. So Harry, go ahead.
So Uh, because I thought that you're more like an academic person. You had an internship at IISc and everything. So were you
Yeah.
thinking about going for master's, PhD, and all of that, or were you like you already wanted to go into industry, get a job, and all of that? What was your expected, uh, in terms of your career? What were you expecting? Because
I
yeah, go.
Yeah, I think I wanted to do software engineering initially. Like business school, I think at some point was like I knew at some point I'll do business school, but for the immediate term, at when we were for the immediate like when we graduated, uh, software engineering had really taken off in the US. It's very different now, but there were more jobs then, and I think in terms of like the amount they were giving out to even like new grads then, it was a lot, like the pay package for the kind of work you had to do at that point in time. So yeah, that's kind of like, we're like, okay, you make so much money and then you invest it properly, and after some time you can retire by 40 or 50. That was the plan
Right.
initially.
Solid plan, yeah.
Solid
But
plan. But
yeah.
no, yeah, the economy now it's different. So
So what motivated you like to change and like pursue a master's and stuff?
I pursued a master's. So part of the reason why I did a master's, like it focused a lot more on software engineering, and was because I was from Triple E, and unlike what you all have, like a minor in CS or IT, we didn't have that. We had like one data structures course and one computer networks course, and that's pretty much what it. So I wanted to like learn about that. The second is that at that point in time, I think cloud computing and machine learning were the two big verticals that people went for. Obviously, a master's in the US with focus on that would give you like more exposure to the jobs here. So that's why I went with.
Makes sense. So you didn't have like any PhD plans and all of that. You were
No,
like,
no,
yeah, masters and followed with the job was what you were
with a
expecting.
job. And I wanted a job in a like a bigger company, like a stable company. That was my plan. Yeah.
Right. And that's how you ended up at Oracle then.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was your
After.
experience like? You're saying something?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I ended up at Oracle. Like I didn't want the riskiness of anything. Uh, and I ended up there. Yeah.
Nice. And how was your experience getting your first job in the US?
Honestly, I think at that point in time, it was way easier than what it was today. Like, um, there was one book called Cracking the Coding Interview. If you learn that, and you could write like the basic, how to reverse a linked list kind of thing, you would you kind of knew you'll get a job somewhere, and you just had to. It's not what it is today, where you have to like
Wow.
a chessboard and all that. Yeah, it was way easier.
Wow.
It was
Even the linked list was a standard 10 years ago. That's so surprising, you know?
Today the standard is specialist in code forces.
I
Yeah,
know, yeah.
Wild times.
I
wild.
think when I interviewed in 2022 with OpenSea, it was like, okay, create a chessboard and like create the whole simulation of a chessboard, and then the interview on the other end would like make the moves, and I had to like program that on my end. Yeah, it was a very crazy interview, and I was like, holy, the
Oh, wow.
difference.
Like times have changed.
Yeah, times changed.
Yeah, nice.
So, what were some challenges you faced in balancing academics and part-time jobs during your master's degree at CMU?
Um, I I think the coursework was the toughest. Like I took cloud computing, machine learning, in the same semester as I had to look for jobs as well as like doing this. And there it's the intensity was way higher. Like undergrads there were used to this kind of intensity, and then with masters you just come in and you're like you are expected to like do a quiz every day, do a heavy project, which takes every week. We had a project, and that project took like, I think 3-4 days to even like, figure out how to stop a DDoS attack. These were like the things that we had for cloud computing. It was very intense. So it was very challenging to manage all that. I think, I mean, I just think I was not used to this kind of a like big work load that
Makes sense. So you're talking about TA ships, is it? So you had a TA ship, Arish?
yeah, I had a TA ship, but I wasn't able to like contribute as much as what I wanted to the TA ship, compare because it's like I just didn't know how to do all this at one point in time. And I mean, you get used to this kind of a work throughout your career. You learn that, but I think like from NITK, that level of hustle versus what was at CMU was a big jump for me.
Makes sense. If you could go back, like, would you give yourself any advice on how you could have handled it, what you could have changed about it?
Honestly, I think it would be like plan things better. Like I see at Wharton, like all the really type A people, they've planned it to the last minute, like the flight they'll take and the hours they'll dedicate for this. I think this was more like, okay, last minute we have so many things to do and figure out a way to do it versus like plan on, for 3 months in advance. That kind of
Right.
thing I see people do. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So that time
the
it was
last
more like,
dinner that they're going to go to, also they have it planned. So yeah,
so before it was like go with the flow, and you'd probably want to make it more planned and more structured.
yeah.
But how would you do it exactly? Because like if you're as busy as, let's say, a student at Wharton, new things will keep coming up, right? Like let's say suddenly you saw an email that you weren't expecting, so now that's going to change the course of what things you're supposed to do, right? Let's say you got accepted into a fellowship that you weren't planning for. So now and those type of things keep happening like every week. So would it really be feasible?
Actually, if you don't know about a fellowship, you don't get accepted to it. Like if you've not planned for it, you'll rarely get accepted to it. Like I've
Okay.
seen that. Like people come here, like let's say even if it's a DRF for the MBA fund, they've started networking those have been there for a very long time. They've networked with the people who they want, with those, organizers of those fellowships. They've been networking for the past few months, like everything happens. So the final, the interview is just like the final stage, and they've all,
Yeah.
the surprise will be that you don't get into it. It's hardly a surprise about getting into it. So that's how
Sense.
it is played at that level. Yeah. Or like this level.
At that point, like interview is just a formality, and like
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to attend events, that informal hustle you've seen. Like I've seen all these people do. And even like, let's say the calendars are out about, the events that are going to come up. The recruiting events are out. People have planned like which flight they'll take also which flight they'll take to attend which event has been planned before.
Yeah. So only natural disasters is going to stop these guys,
Yeah.
nothing else. Yeah.
I mean, like in general, like that's how I've seen most people do that. Yeah, which was very new to me. Yeah.
But yeah, like it makes sense because it's very unlikely that if it's such a competitive fellowship, like it's not like you just apply and you go, right? Like you should have,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like by the time you apply, you almost know for certain like what your profile is and what is expected and whether you'll
Yeah.
get it or not. So that level of planning is required. Got it, makes sense. So so you mentioned that when you got into Oracle that you weren't into risk and you wanted like a stable thing and all of this, right? But immediately, like I think not immediately, maybe 1 or 2 years in Oracle, you left for your first startup. So what brought this transition and what changed like your appetite for risk and all of these things?
Yeah, I think I left within a year and a half. Um, I think I wasn't learning enough. Like I figured I could see like what the next 5 or 10 years look like at Oracle. I think in the other, like maybe Meta and all, it's different. It would have been different, but I figured that at what we were like 23, 24 at that point in time, and I figured like it's okay that I had to like maximize on learning as with respect to anything else. And obviously like visa situation and all were a concern, but I'm like it's fine, I wasn't learning anything, and I just the startup driver was at that point in time they I didn't know a lot about like the business side of things, but they had raised and they had like a good technical talent, and I thought okay, I learned more. So that was my intention.
So adding to that, since you assessed the risk versus reward, how would you advise young professionals who are early in their career to assess that risk versus reward when making like uh, early career move?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, like, if you're like in your 25, 26, 27, obviously prioritize on experiences and learnings that you get. Then prioritize on the network you can build. Like Oracle, I don't think my network would have massively increased. Like, I wasn't meeting like the CEO of Oracle, I think.
Right,
But
right.
at Driver, like I interacted with like the CEO and the other C-level executives who were like successful in their own team. So try to like maximize that. Uh, also, I know it's what I did as a mistake or in hindsight was I was just looking at the technical talent. Oh, I wasn't looking at the business, like whether Driver had a shot at being successful, like whether they had revenue. VC funding was high at that point in time, so the company had raised a lot, but I wasn't. Yeah, I don't think they could have monetized it. So that was my mistake. Like when you're joining a startup, apart from the network and the learning, also start evaluating companies, like whether you think they have a shot at being successful.
So how did you yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Doordash happened, right? So how did Doordash happen? How did that fall into your plate, and how did like you finalize like okay, this is where I would go?
Yeah. So driver was I kind of knew that driver wouldn't make it. Like they had raised a lot, but we failed launching the products and people were leaving. So even my manager itself said, yeah, like this company might not survive. You should start looking. And that's how I started looking. And I still wanted to be, but I love my experience, that learning, like sitting on a Saturday and coding with them. I really liked that vibe you got from early stage startup. So then I wanted a company like that, but a little more in the later stages. I think Doordash at that when I was interviewing was Series C. Uh, and I interviewed with 2, 3 other unicorns at that. Unicorns are like a little below unicorn at that point in time. Honestly, I got Doordash. The others didn't work out, so that made my jump easier. I didn't. I mean, I interviewed with some of the bigger companies and I got offers, but I like when I went to Doordash, that energy of that early stage startup where people are like using whiteboards to like tell like
Oh,
this, and there were very few engineers at that point. I think less than 10 women were in engineering. I think, yeah. that vibe which I got from driver, but a little more stable vibe was what I got.
So did you feel there's something special about DoorDash at the time, or were you just like, yeah, this is another interesting startup that I want to be part of? Or did you get the sense that no, this is not just another startup, there's something special about this?
Going going into the interview process, I felt there's something special. Like when I started interviewing and meeting the engineers, I was like, oh, so frankly, at that point in time, DoorDash was behind Postmates and Uber in terms of like market cap also. But you talk to anyone, I mean, I think I asked this to one of the engineers also. So we are behind in terms of market cap. Like, what are your thoughts? And everyone's like, no, we'll beat them. That confidence was there with every person that DoorDash will win and we'll take it. And then at that point, even Tony was heavily involved in recruiting, like the CEO. Like he emailed over the weekend saying, okay, let's chat. I was too nervous at that point, so I didn't chat or ask any questions. But that camaraderie of like reaching out to everyone was there. So I really liked that aspect of the stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
So
was the
it's
like oh,
summit, yeah, there was something special from what I
nice.
saw. I felt it.
So obviously, like these are some. I remember seeing this YouTube video of like the four founders of DoorDash, like making their I think YC video or something. And I remember seeing it like, man, like people are so young and they're so smart already, and all of these things. So when you talk to them when you first entered there, did you experience like imposter syndrome and like how am I going to cope up with these people? They're like at a different level. Did you feel that, or did you feel like they were so like inclusive and everything that you felt like, no, I'm confident I can make this work?
Absolutely. I felt imposter syndrome going in a lot because I think most of the early engineers were from Stanford Computer Science. Or, yeah, and they all knew each other. They all went to the same schools in Bay Area. So everyone had that um, equation with them. Yeah, very few women engineers. So that also, it's like, I think there were less than 10 and amongst that, the early, like the individual contributors were like 5 or 6. So it's very hard to find. But they were very inclusive. Like we didn't have any like levels or hierarchies. You could Slack. Like Andy, who was the CTO, used to have one-on-ones with us. Uh, he knew your name. He used to say hi to you when you're standing, check in with you. So that was there at that point in time. Like, and some I still rely on them also. Like some of them I hit them up asking, about most of them early engineers have gone on to start their own company. So if you want,
Yes.
yeah, they are part of the network. When I was looking, I just reached out to someone who was connected me to someone else from Doordash who's building something. So yeah, that imposter syndrome was there, but inclusive. I think they made sure that reduced because of the inclusive nature. And yeah.
And so let's say, but it would have been a bit like steep of a transition, let's say going from, let's say, a startup, just like a normal startup, to DoorDash, right? So if someone were to do that, like let's say they had like this sudden change in environment, so how would you advise for them to like pick up and then kind of adapt and get with the situation? What sort of skills do you recommend for them, like in terms of networking, reaching out to people, asking for help? So what do you felt was the most impactful for you?
So for any startup, like in that stage, I know there are a lot of engineers that focus on like building the right things and making it reliable and all. I mean, it's important, but in DoorDash at that point in time, like hustle was what mattered. So you show up. Like if there's an outage, you show up and you try to troubleshoot. You put your hand up for any sort of any. There were few engineers, so anything that was there, like launching McDonald's, for example, say, yeah, I want to take that out. Like you have to push yourself for that. And everyone does that also. And the company rewarded. Like it's easy to like shy away from an outage and say, okay, if I don't, there will be someone who's willing to like jump in at that point in time. But the people remember the person who spoke and, who did something at that point. Even if it doesn't work out, just show up, I would say. That was the biggest skill. Yeah, it took me a while. Like initially I was like, oh, what if I mess up and I don't know how to fix this and all that. But still, you just talking to like one of the people fixing it, you learn so much.
Makes sense. But that point that you made, like people will remember the person who actually did it, was is really, really something that people should take away with them, if nothing else, because that the whole idea of being like agentic and like just just picking up responsibilities and kind of, you know, along the way you'll find help. Like if people know that this person's working on it and it's a
Yeah.
difficult task, it'll also be easier for you to get help because people will be like, yeah, this person needs help. So that is something that people overlook, that you can ask for help and find it out. But for that, you first need to, like you put it, right? You need to maybe take up that responsibility, not shy away from it. Yeah, that's a very, very strong point. So what was the end game for you, like in DoorDash? What were you thinking? Like, yeah, I'll just stick around here and then I'll just keep moving up, like to upper management, or were you thinking about leaving or like some sort of exit? So what was the end game for you, like in a startup that was clearly heading towards success?
Um, so but joining Dude, actually, so it's a bit like I think I'd done like a little bit of prep for an MBA before joining DoorDash. So I had done my, volunteering thing. I did like a volunteering thing before that, and I knew at some point in time I would do an MBA. And I thought initially going in that I'll stay for maybe 2 years at DoorDash and then apply for an MBA. But then the DoorDash like really took off, and then I decided not to um like waited it out, like decided like let me see whether I should do or not. I wasn't even sure whether I needed an MBA. Then I think after like 4 years after we went public, most of the earlier engineers started leaving and they started like either starting their own company. That was the vibe around then. And we became a little more mature company. And I like that first 0 to 1 stage, that thing that you get when you're building a lot. So that's when I decided, okay, let me see whether I didn't know whether I wanted to start something on my own, but I explored a few. And then I thought, okay, yeah, let's see. Why not take the risk? At that point in time, it was okay to take the risk. But this was 2022 when the market was flooded still with money and before it started crashing. So,
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
But you mentioned that you love the process of going from 0 to 1, right? And you were like an integral part of DoorDash while this was happening. So you had helped out with things like the McDonald's launch and cash on delivery and all of that. So one thing about cash on delivery is like, did you do it for the US market?
So so cash and delivery, we had like Drive. Drive is like the white label provider. That means let's say you order something on Pizza Hut, it'll be a DoorDash dasher that comes and delivers the order to you because Pizza Hut will send us the orders. Uh, so the incumbents that we were going after was Domino's and Pizza Hut, and they actually paid in cash. Like the US pizza delivery market was that the guy comes and delivers to you, and then you pay cash to them. I know
Okay.
DoorDash the transaction happens on a card, so that was what we one which we were going after. The second, we were looking to expand to a few countries at that point in time. This was like again before the around the Volt acquisition, but I think like few countries like Germany actually was I think around like 30% or so in cash transactions. So that was the other reason like we wanted to like bring cash back. Uh, why we had paused on cash was because we had started developing it pre-COVID and then we paused on it when COVID happened for obvious reasons, like you don't want to transfer cash. But then once the restrictions stopped, we
East.
brought it back. Yeah, yeah. Because certain countries still run on cash.
Makes sense. That's a very valid point that some countries still run on cash. But I'd heard that US was like very heavily like digitized in terms of the cash, like credit cards and all these things. So I thought like the give cash to the Domino's person like is just like a movie thing in the US, because otherwise it's like US is one of the most heavily digitized economies in terms of this one monetary transactions. But so you're saying that, but there's still like a huge market within the US, that like huge economy within the US that still functions on cash, is it? And
wouldn't
that was
say
the one.
huge, but there was some bit like the Pizza Huts and all. The pizza delivery still was on cash, like the if on cash. I mean, obviously you can pay via card on Pizza Hut or Domino's today, but there were people who preferred cash also. So that's why.
Makes sense. Yeah. So speaking of cash and card and digitization also, any thoughts on UPI, by the way? So what do you think about UPI and
I think
does
it's
it?
amazing. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you have an Aadhaar card, but everything pretty much today on Google Pay or you don't even need to carry cash. So, uh, m- I mean, and it's one of the most toughest infrastructure that, has been built. So, in fact, yeah, that's pretty advanced compared to like what's there in like the US. US also doesn't have the UPI yet.
Do you feel like there will be a transition in the US or US will like, I mean, just continue using card or is there like a push for adoption for things like UPI or something?
I've not heard of a push for UPI. Also, it's very privatized in the US, right? So I don't know if like the government's going to like develop that payment layer or like government will sort of not government develop it, like at least fund it, like what happened in India. It's going to be like the Stripes, PayPal's, they'll have their own app and version of it. I don't know if there'll be some sort of integration.
Makes sense. Another initiative that you led at Doordash was this one, the pursuit of McDonald's. So how did that come about? Like, what was the story there?
Yeah, so this was in 2018 or 2019. 2018, I think we started. At that point in time, Doordash had not had like any massive, we call them whale merchants, like McDonald's and Starbucks and all. Because they had like around 10K just in the US, 10K stores. Our big launches up until then were like Chipotle, which had like 2K stores. So getting McDonald's was very important to us. McDonald's had an exclusivity with Uber also at that point in time. So we were trying to like, obviously break that. So this project came and then I volunteered for it. And then I just I wanted to be exposed to like massive volume of things. And it was fun because Doordash, because of the scale, we were in developer scale. So every time like McDonald's sent us like data to ingest for the menus or something, our systems went down. So we had to like revamp part of the systems also. Yeah, even though it's like I was working on McDonald's, it was like a huge team effort. Like there were teams working on upgrading our systems to take that load. Like we had like some services of 1.5 version of that to like take this load. Uh, but yeah, because it was huge, I think, and it was a smaller company then. I got a lot of support from like the VP and everyone, and yeah, it was fun when you saw that orders on day one shooting up, and uh,
Nice.
yeah, we all sat in this war room launching McDonald's. I got to meet the McDonald's team in Chicago also. Like I flew to their office and just to like build the relationship. So
Amazing. Yeah, it must have been crazy, right? Like the dopamine
yeah,
hit,
it was.
like such a huge project going all successful, and like it would have been
Oh, no,
like
it was, I mean, there was a lot of support and there were like a lot of like hacks that we had to do. But that's what pretty much like our product managers were also on board with the hacks. Like we didn't have a lot of things built, but we also built a lot of stuff for McDonald's because they were like such a huge, like anything McDonald's said, we were like, yes, we do that. And we were just
yeah, we have
building
this. This is possible, yes. And then
yeah.
you go into the water, and be like, oh my God, you know, I have some bad news. Do we
Yeah.
even know what this is? Yeah,
Yeah, but
but
it is no, but like the VP practically like I remember once there was a whole block on like launching something and McDonald's needed something to be pushed, and then I just texted and he's like, yeah, go for it. Like like excuses were made for McDonald's always. Yeah.
nice. And so how did you get over like the exclusivity with these other brands? What was the like the breakthrough moment that
Oh, that I think the DoorDash's partnerships team. I think you should credit that. But I know like how DoorDash operates. They were like heavily. I don't know the mechanics behind how they got it. Like the exclusivity was ending with Uber at that point in time. So obviously they launched on that. The timing aspect was there. But the partnerships was the operations team, they were like a go-getter type, like, constantly pursuing, looking for partnerships. But I can't speak much to that because I was on the engineering side. I just knew that this was coming up. They were going up with them.
So you must be very happy reminiscing about the memories from Doordash. You must
Yeah,
really miss those days from
yeah, it
Doordash.
was awesome. Yeah,
Is
it
this
was awesome.
so?
Yeah,
I'm going to ask a controversial question. You can cut it out if you don't want to answer. But
yeah.
is Doordash the best ever company you worked in and the one that you really miss?
I would say yes, because I learned the most at Doordash. And I also like that old Doordash, like everyone in Doordash at that point in time, I felt like was an entrepreneur on their own. And they're all starting companies at this point, they're trying like, doing that. So yeah, I just got to see how great people worked. So
Nice. So,
Nice, nice.
so it must have been really sad, like when you decided to leave, right?
yeah, I mean, but though most of the old Doordash people aren't there anymore, like everyone's left. So then I think it was okay. Like still, I miss it. But yeah, I still keep in touch. In fact, one of the early engineers from Doordash is at Wharton also with me. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah,
It's a small world, I guess.
yeah.
Like, nice. And so after you left DoorDash, you went to Gander. So was it like you were part of the founding team? Is it?
Yeah. I was working with the founder like uh for some time before that to see, if things will work out, and I was helping her. And then I thought, yeah, let's make the jump. You learn a lot like when you have to like build at such a small stage, a seed business, like from a seed stage when you have to find customers, keep them
Right.
happy,
Build your team, everything.
build your team. Everything is very scrappy. Like you don't have a recruiter, you don't have HR. You are in charge of putting together everything.
You have to call your friends like, bro, there's a company we don't have a CTO. Do you want to be a CTO or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just
So what did you do at Gander, and why did you choose Gander?
yeah. I was the VP. I came in as the VP of engineering. I was also like the first hire. My duty or task was to build out the engineering team. Why did I choose Gander? I am kind of understood the product. Like when you it may like I've seen image. So what Gander did was it helped small businesses like put embed videos on their page, so that when you go to, let's say, I wouldn't call it Amazon, let's say a pickle store on Shopify, and how the pickles are made, or like how the reviews from people who use that, instead of like text reviews, you see like video reviews. It communicated better, and the chances were this would increase conversion. Our thesis was this would increase conversion. I mean, TikTok was popular. People used to anyway look for video reviews, so we thought let's have it on the page. So that is, I thought it's like like the at that point in time the idea seemed intuitive. I'd done like this was there were a couple of startups in this space. This was picking up in China as well. So yeah, I thought let's take the jump.
So was it ultimately about ads, or what was it? So it would increase conversion rate, but how were you going to do it exactly?
It would increase conversion because when you come to the website and you see a video of how the product, it's like, think of reviews, but you'll have like an influencer telling you how good this product is.
Okay.
So instead of reading through that, you're seeing like it's not yeah, I would say call it an ad, like, but it's not driving traffic to Gander. Sorry, driving traffic to the website. Like once you're at the website, then you try to like increase conversion there. So yeah.
So this was like a middleman that kind of, not a middleman. Okay, but like you said, like essentially like an ad is what it comes closest to.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, some sort. Yeah.
optimizing the marketing for like small D2C brands.
Yeah. So, I mean, so the thing is like for D2C, influencer marketing was taking off. So our thesis was we'll get these influencers or like micro influencers, people who wanted to be influencers, tell a video of how to use it. And a lot of companies wanted that. Like we got a lot of inbound on getting having this. Yeah.
And you were working on the technical side of this, or were you
Yeah.
working on the business side? So VP of engineering is what you were doing.
Yeah. So hiring, engineering. I mean, we had to do like pivoting as and when, customers wanted something else, all that stuff. Yeah.
What was like the biggest challenge that you faced as a VP now?
I think I was so used to like getting like, get in Doordash, you had like a team around you reviewing and, tell like gut checking things. I could always gut check with my manager. Not in this, you are taking your own decision and
You are the gut now.
you are the yeah, you have to make sure. And then also like managing people in a startup, like managing their timelines, being all the like I had few indirect leads at Doordash, but then there was a system in place, and this you're creating all that. So those were the challenges.
So, but again, every experience matters, right? Even in
Yeah,
DoorDash, someone would have been there who was in your situation and created all of this.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the best way to learn is to go to it. So
Yeah,
it
I
was
would say this
sooner.
will go to it, and this also gave me immense respect for anyone who's building something. Like, it's the toughest job, I would say. So
Nice. So up till this point, you'd always been like a technical person, right? But after this point, so you had made a transition from Gander into venture capital,
yeah.
which is a good water VC. So what drove you to make this transition from like a coding person to like a more like a finance and a business person?
Yeah, I think um I liked working in that 0 to 1 stage and like meeting founders. I really enjoyed that. I was still in touch with the people from Doordash, even at Gander, like what they were building. And then an old manager of mine actually, someone who knew like all the Doordash and Uber folks knew each other, and one of them went to Goodwater, and he had reached out a while back about asking me about possibly joining Goodwater, and um at that point in time I decided to join Gander, but then I like after Gander I reached like Gander we knew like the company might not survive, things weren't going so well. So then I reached out to him and I decided to join Goodwater. But I'd also made up my mind about the MBA at that point in time. Like I knew I would go, I'll be applying that year. So I thought it's a good way for me to like dip my feet in like seed investing because Goodwater, I joined as like an engineer, but also all engineers could do seed investments, like lead seed investment routes. So it was a way to get used to meeting like founders and also prepping for an MBA. So that is how. And the main reason why I went is because I really like talking to founders and figuring out like what they're building and whether it makes sense or like evaluating them.
And were you focused mainly on like gig economy type companies, or did you try to explore new companies? Like now that you're in VC, you might have like more freedom in terms of like you have like essentially have a spectrum of what type of companies you can work with, right? It's not like you got into a gig company, so you have to work like all the problems will be related to that. So now you had this choice. So did you try exploring some other things, or were you like no, I want to vertically kind of improve my understanding of other companies like DoorDash? What was the objective in terms of what companies you choose to work with?
Yeah, in terms of like diligence and understanding the company at a higher level, I wanted to work across all the companies. But when you have experience building in, let's say, when you've seen DoorDash and gig economy and logistics, last mile logistics, like how that was built, you naturally know a lot about how that business works. So I focused a lot on that in Goodwater also. Like I think they had led Zeptos, but Zepto I wasn't involved much in it, but I was working with a South Korean company which was also doing. It's called Dewey, which is also the South Korean DoorDash. So I worked with them. Then at Blink Capital also, like when I get when I get to work on last mile logistics company that Blink funded, like on some of their optimization problems or how to make customers take, like looking at that data. I know naturally like more about this space. I'm able to help the founders more than or evaluate more companies in this space than others because I've been there.
You've had like first-hand experience with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know something. Yeah.
That too, like with the best, like so. That's
Yeah.
like very
I
rare.
mean,
So, yeah, for
yeah.
VC companies to find people like that, so makes sense.
Actually, many VC companies are now looking for like not the traditional investment bankers in uh, what do you say, VC, but people who've like operated. I mean, they also look for investment bankers and all, but also who've operated. Yeah.
Makes sense. That experience will be so valuable, right? Like what type of problems the founders you're working with would be facing, and you obviously have like some experience, like okay, this can be solved in a certain way. So that'll be like very valuable, and you can repeat that for multiple companies who are facing
Yeah.
similar problems. So that would have been like makes sense totally, like why VCs would be wanting that. So now you've decided to like, so it looks like you've always kind of slowly moving towards an MBA. What was the final, like, yeah, this is the time to do an MBA. Now I want to get my MBA now. What was the moment where that switch happened?
Yeah, I think this was at Goodwater where I spoke to one of the partners and I told him that, look, I want to switch to investing from this role, like a full-time investing role. And he told me, yeah, you have to like get an MBA. He said it's possible, but without an MBA. But even the ones who switched without an MBA, I think it's a lot more what do you say, hustle and a lot of do on your own, and also your background matters. Like VC is a sales job. um Maybe an early Doordash employee can bring in some startups, like, but MBA will just expand your network, and then you want that founder to take your money. So an MBA from like a good institute will kind of give you that, and also you network. You meet the next set of CFOs and all in your net. You'll have them in your network. Yeah, that was the reason I switched.
So
Nice.
would you, let's say now that your MBA is done, at a later point, would you consider like going into startups again, or now like you've kind of decided that this is the trajectory that you want to follow?
I think I'm open to it. Like I'm exploring a few things. Like I've not like decided it's going to be VC. Like I'm doing investment banking for the summer actually, and
Okay,
then
nice.
yeah. I'm actually doing investment banking for the summer. So I'm exploring, and I want to see like where best, like whether it's like a strategy role at like an AI company, or like be an investment bank or VC. Like just trying to like figure things out. Yeah.
Nice. So you're doing investment banking at Bling, isn't?
Not Bling. Bling is a VC firm. I'm going to Goldman.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So I think now the equation really changes, right? So now you have all these experiences, and like AI has just completely changed the game. So what do you feel like all these different factors, where do you think it's going to lead you in terms of your career? So now are you going to, do you feel like you're more towards the investment banking side of things, or do you feel like that is just another experience that will make you a better VC person?
Investment banking will definitely make you a better VC, though it's not necessary because this is valuations at a larger scale and public companies and transactions are higher. Like VC, you have very little data on the math of a company, like in terms of like you'll have some idea whether the company will work or not based on some, like when you diligence a company, but investment banking is at a different scale. But for me specifically, I think this will give me an experience of like how to make how like what are the things for a company at different stages, like to for it to work. Like in the early stage, like what are the metrics you have to look at, like retention. Then also you look at whether it's like, I wouldn't call it profitable, but let's say in terms of gross margins, like you still need to be, you can't be bleeding money. You have like a set of companies and you need to work towards that. So basically keeping companies efficient. Uh, and then it's more about figuring out like where best I fit in.
Makes sense. you need to explore a bit so that you can understand that,
Yeah, yeah.
because the VC ecosystem is obviously rapidly changing now with the arrival of AI and everything. It's completely changed how companies function, the size of teams, what processes are being automated, and what is like the role that a human being plays is completely being changed. So as a tech person and as a VC person, like what is your thought on like what the processes that AI has been automating like the past couple of years?
I mean, I think so in VC itself, note taking, for example, like I use, I mean, this comes to the apps later, but we use Superhuman to like reach companies and respond to companies faster. Then a
So
lot.
it's like an outreach. Is it like an outreach tool or
No, it's just an email tool. There are outreach tools also, like
lead
but no,
generation?
yeah, lead generation. I think there are a few. I think one guy from NITK itself is looking to build something in that. But VC is a more, so the way it's simply put, I think all the relationship aspect of the jobs like investment banking or VC, that'll stick because you need a human to like build that connection. But all the other things which, the grunt work, which, the Excel stuff or the PowerPoint stuff, all that will obviously like get automated. So
Nice. So, because even on the like let's say the engineering side of things, a lot of there is no word to express like the number of things that have been automated, and it's kind of stunning to see like how the majority of the public is like unaware of this change or like is ignorant towards this change. Like there are so many web like tools right now, like we just discussed a couple of minutes back, that can code up entire websites, but like the concept of a web developer is still so vastly prevalent. So do you feel there is an equivalent to that in, let's say, the VC world? There's like entire things that human beings used to do that is now automated in the world of VC, and that people are not really aware of it, and they probably should be.
I would say it's starting to eat a little bit into it. Like people should be aware of it, obviously. Like, but it's like even in investment banks. Like when I was chatting with them, they are talking about the tools that the analysts and associates are using. They're like the AI tools that they are using. You can't use GPT because you need confidential information. So they have like their own version of it. In VCs also, I mean, we use that a lot. Whether it's like doing some diligence, you can use Claude to like put together the charts, things which took me like maybe 2 or 3 hours to do. I can do it within like
Few
few
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but these are many like ad hoc processes, like small
Yeah. There's
optimizations.
no one. It's not become one specific tool that does it yet. And I think like it's slowly starting to become and will come. VC industry, not so much innovation, but obviously like in legal and all, I think they're seeing massive like, replacing the paralegals, like tools for that. So it'll come very soon.
Yeah, you should do it, Karthika. So maybe you, me, Naveen, like we'll just start up. That's it. After this podcast, we'll
Yeah.
create a yeah. Let's just do it. Naveen, you were about to ask something.
Yeah. So today, phone is the most important thing after your partner and family, right? So do you think eventually we'll have a personal AI assistant that's as important as a phone?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, not phone. I would say you'll have like your AI executive, one agent, which will be your executive assistant. I can so see that happening. I mean, many people have their own EAs today. You get someone to like book your car, book your flight, and all. Like a lot of people have that. Uh, but I can see an agent, AI agent doing that, and you'll just talk to the agent to you know.
Yeah.
And even like in terms of general work, it's entirely possible that in the future there'll be agents that are doing our work, and our job is like to maintain the agents, like if it goes
Yeah,
down or something.
yeah,
It's entirely because especially with things like MCPs and like agent to agent protocol, all these things, like it's like making huge strides, like in terms of how many agents can be in an ecosystem and how many tools they can interact with. So it's scaling much bigger than like what a human being could do. Like how many tools or programming
yeah.
languages could
It's
So just to put together the two things we're discussing, so we're discussing like business and AI, right? So there's a nice event that happened the past couple of months, which is Google acquiring Wiz. So that puts together like business and AI, so mergers and acquisitions, and then you have the whole intent of Google to kind of ramp up their AI ecosystem. So do you have any thoughts on this business deal, like in terms of the benefits it brings Google, or in terms of the role that startups are playing in empowering these large companies that may not have that AI infrastructure fully developed?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call it like AI. I mean, so when does an acquisition make sense? It makes sense when the primary main one is whether the company is distressed, like so in this case Biz wasn't, or like you see some sort of synergies, which is what in this case it is. Like Google has cloud, its cloud business, it wants to scale its like this scale its distribution, and for that like packaging cloud with a cybersecurity offering that Biz has. uh, it's a pretty go-to bundle that most companies will do. So that's the primary reason. In terms of the money, I think it's obviously overvalued. I remember studying this for my IB interviews. It was 23 billion at that point in time and was walked away from it. And now it became 32 billion. So in just a few months, it's just, or it's just a lot of like, what do you say? That's how much Google is valuing
Yes.
this deal. Yeah, but Google is, I think, third compared to like Microsoft and AWS in terms of like cloud revenue and like scale. So this is what I would say. This integration makes sense and will kind of put Google. Uh, I mean, this that you have to see that whether they actually are able to integrate, whether they are able to increase their distribution because of this. But yeah, it's a good integration if they can realize the synergies, and if they're able to attract more customers, like even OpenAI. I think OpenAI was exclusive Microsoft as of now, but let's see.
Correct.
But those are just my thoughts. But yeah, it's a good acquisition. I think it's like accretive to Google at the moment.
Maybe, they feel like given the potential of AI, even though like currently it might seem like it's overvalued, maybe in the long run they might feel it could be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to conclude, so it seems like even the Google Wiz deal seems to be giving the impression that the application layer is where all the value is, right? Even though there is so much of research and everything going on, it seems like the application layer is what's taking off. And India is heavily focused towards the application layer. So what are your thoughts on in terms of AI startups and AI adoption in India?
In terms of like whether it should be focused on application layer, I think yeah, India should be focused on that only and scale that. Uh, Primarily because I think in terms of funding, like the funding that Meta has for R&D in just Q4 of December 2024 was 12 billion costs for R&D itself. Most of the Indian startups, the valuation is even lesser than 10 billion. So for India, like, just training a model, I think takes like 2 to 3 million itself. So yeah, I would say focus on the application. For India, it's best. And a lot of like application layer challenges itself to be solved. I think India is doing well in terms of like the software development startups like Postman or like maybe the Codiums of the world, which can come from India.
Makes sense. All right, cool then. I guess that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining, Karthika. But before we go, just a small rapid fire segment. So we'll just
Yeah.
ask you a sequence of questions, and you can just give us like very brief yes or no answers. And if you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass. So that is also fine. So maybe let's say 5 seconds per question, and we'll have like 5 or 6 questions. So yeah. So first question. So do you think we'll see a one-person unicorn or a one-person billion-dollar company in the next 5 years because of AI
One
alone?
person, no. Not in the
One
next 5
person.
years. No, no.
All right.
I don't think so.
Okay. So if you had $1 million today, would you invest it in OpenAI, or would you invest it in Anthropic?
I've been using Claude a lot, so I would say OpenAI itself has raised a lot. It's hard. My answer would be both, but if I had to pick, it would be Claude.
Okay. So given the current global economic situation and all the crazy things that have been happening, somehow Bitcoin has still been progressing steadily and it's been increasing and appreciating in value is still around 100K. So do you think there's any chance that Bitcoin would appreciate to 200K by the end of this year?
I hope so, but I don't think it might.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Would you prefer to use local LLMs that are quantized but give poor performance, or would you prefer to use LLMs that are there on the cloud and give more performance, but you have to share your data with them?
Depends on the situation. For anything where I have a lot of confidential data, local LLMs. Otherwise, like OpenAI, or when it's like any normal use case, yeah, anything in the cloud, because I'm okay trading that speed for better accuracy.
Makes sense. If it's something general, then use the cloud.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Will consulting and investment banking jobs obviously have a very good understanding of investment banking?
Yeah.
Are these jobs likely to be automated by AI because of the tools like deep research, or do you think we are still far away from things like that?
Oh no, they will. Parts of it will be like the relationship part won't be, but I think everything else, like the modeling and grunt work aspect of it, will definitely.
All right, cool. And the last segment for today, again, just a very brief segment. So we'll give you a set of AI tools, and you're supposed to compare like which one you prefer, and if you want to, you could give like a brief sentence like why you like one tool more than the other. So we'll start between Cursor and Windsurf. Which one would you prefer? What do you
I
like?
don't code anymore, but I've heard Cursor's better. Yeah.
Okay, so Cursor against Claude, let's say on the desktop.
Claude. I've been using Claude a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so Claude versus Perplexity Search.
Different use cases, but I would say Claude.
Claude versus Lovable or Bold to build websites.
Claude for me, because I still don't code much.
Okay,
Code at
so
all. Yeah.
okay, Claude versus ChatGPT.
Let's do GPT now. Yeah.
Okay, any reason why the switch happened now?
No, because I've been saying Claude for a long time, but I still go
Okay,
for Claude. That's all. Yeah, actually, yeah, we can switch back. I like Claude a lot. Yeah.
okay, and Claude versus Superhuman.
Superhuman, the email one. Yeah. Superhuman.
Superhuman versus Descript.
Superhuman.
Right, so Superhuman is the winner, and
It's
we will
getting there.
recommend it. Yeah, it's getting there. So Naveen, the next clone we have to build is of Superhuman. We'll go sell it to our all the light speed. There's a light speed office close by. We'll go sell it to them. So okay, yeah. So I guess that brings us to the end of the podcast. Karthika, thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you sometime when you come by India or you come by Bangalore. So
Absolutely. Let's do that. I have to really hurry, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. And thank you for inviting me and putting this together.
Thank you, Karthika. Bye bye.
thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.